Hey guys, so this might be out of focus. Sorry. I'm gonna film this clip super fast because my battery is dying and I'm losing my voice because I just filmed a bunch of stuff. So today's vlog is super exciting. It's the I finished my book vlog. Have I finished my book yet? No. In my last vlog I talked about how now I was going into work on the final 4 chapters of my book. I talked about this, but I'm having like a post-grad existential crisis. Without school, my novel has been the thing that's like giving me purpose. I've been working on this draft for a year and a half about, it's like the last thing that was tying me to that chapter of my life. So I've been putting it off and I haven't done it. I need to just do it. It's halfway through February. I should be able to finish this thing by the end of March. How is it going? It's been a bit of a struggle, to be honest. 2 things are kind of dragging down the process for me at the moment. The first one is that this setting is killing me because the whole book really takes place in this one setting, in this forest, in this town. One of the things that really carries me forward through a piece is like setting and imagery. I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel for how many times and in how many ways I can describe this valley. The other thing is all my chapters have felt really thin and underdeveloped. This makes sense, but I wasn't really anticipating it. The book is in 2 parts, and part 1 is a lot more complex in terms of there are a lot of moving pieces, there are a lot of characters, a lot of character relationships. So every chapter felt really rich, there were a lot of scenes, and then all of those things in part 1 kind of meet, and they kind of come together to create one thread, and part 2 really just has that one thread. So every chapter is basically done in like 2 scenes. Because I'm used to these really dense, big chapters, all of my chapters feel so underwritten. I can't tell if they actually are or if that is legitimately all that's needed. I am an underwriter, so it's like I can't tell in terms of like number of scenes, like if I need more scenes or not. Those are 2 things I've kind of been struggling with. I just need to do it, and I feel like starting this vlog will motivate me to actually just get it done. I have some friends coming over to do a workshop. I'm not workshopping my novel. I gave my workshop a couple short stories, like 2 2,000 worders. I had filmed that initial clip and then honestly I didn't write. Last week was really hectic. I went away with my family on a little ski trip and then I was just in town staying at my mom's place. Finally, I got back into writing a couple days ago. So on Sunday was my birthday. I had some friends over just to hang out, write a little, and I was actually really productive. I wrote about 1,000 words with friends on Sunday, and then yesterday I did a little bit more. I had finished in the middle of a scene the day before, so I just finished up the scene, and I have 1 more scene left in the chapter that I'm currently writing. I thought I would talk a little bit about what I'm currently reading. When I'm working on a project, I like to read books that I think will give me some inspiration. So I just finished reading a book that had absolutely nothing to do with honey vinegar, but the book that I'm going to be picking up next, probably tonight, is The Mercies by Kieran Millwood Hargrave. This is a new release. I paid full price for this baby. It's a bit of a unit of a book. I have few skills in life, but one of my skills is not paying full price for books. But this one I just bought. It's set in Norway in 1617, and I'm just getting a folkloric, witchy vibe. It's not like I need inspiration for what happened. I know everything that happens in my book until the end. Reading books that remind me of my book kind of just gets me in the right headspace. So I'm gonna pick up that. And then one of my yearly reading goals was to reread 3 books. I never reread books because I always want to be productive. I want to read new books, but There are a few books that I adore so much, and I've only read them one time, and so I want to reread History of Wolves by Emily Fridland. I never shut up about this book. It's one of my favorite novels. I read this in like January of 2017, or like February of 2017 anyways. It's been a few years, so I really want to reread it and maybe study it a little more closely. But also, I've always seen this as like one of my comp titles for Honey Vinegar, and it's potential that by the time I'm done those two books, I will be done my book. So as long as I don't get distracted, it's probably not very long until I'm done this book. Hello, friends, folks, pals. So at the moment, I'm just doing some work, but I thought I would film a little update because I have some things to say. Yesterday, I finished writing chapter 20. So that means that I have 3 chapters left. A critical thing happened. I have felt for the past couple chapters that I haven't felt as engaged as I would like to with my story. And it's not like I feel super disconnected. It's like I can sit down and write it and it works and it's fine and it's not awful, but I just didn't feel like I could access the story just as openly as maybe I have at other points. It's been an on and off thing. Like there have been points in the book where the story has come out in this super rich way and I felt like I had this really clear access to it. Points where I guess the feeling is when I'm really engaged with the story, it's almost like my main character's narrative voice kind of just takes over and write, several thousand words a day. The narrative voice does things that maybe I wasn't planning, but it just feels right. There are other times where it's like I just have felt a little more disengaged from it. I think that that's probably part of the reason why I was procrastinating writing the last few chapters, because they are the last few chapters. I didn't want to write them when I was in this place where I wasn't as involved with the story for some reason. So I finished chapter 20 yesterday and it turned out fine. I didn't dislike it. There was a dialogue scene, which I feel that the dialogue in this book has not been my strongest. I think because of the types of characters, quite simply. Almost every character in this book is an introvert. I know, I'm just coming for my own people. So I found dialogue a little difficult. My main character is such a bitter, difficult person that sometimes it's difficult to have her realistically interact with people. I had this long dialogue scene that I was writing. I mean, it's not super long, it's like 1,000 words. I think it needs to be a little longer, but because it's a little underwritten. I usually know that I'm not feeling as engaged with the story because I'll write about 600 words and be like, I'm ready to kind of just check out right now. When I'm more engaged with the story, I don't really run out of writing fuel so quickly. So I wrote my chapter, it was fine. Ever since I was a child, probably 11 or 12, when I bought my first iPod. It was like my first purchase. I researched for so long to find the best deal. It was an iPod Nano, it was blue. I think I actually still have it. It doesn't work anymore. I would, before I went to sleep, listen to music for like about half an hour and just think about writing. This is something that I still do sometimes, but not every day like I did when I was a child. Yesterday I was like, you know what, I want to listen to music for a bit and just think about my book. And it actually really, really helped. Things clicked. I started to see the scene that I had just written in more detail than I had before. I took a bunch of notes. I realized another scene I probably need in the next chapter. Sometimes you get the pieces aligned where it feels like the book is just a movie and you start the reel and it starts just playing in your head without you having to do anything, and then you're just transcribing. That's the feeling of being really engaged with the story that I wasn't having. And of course this is on and off. I don't think it's possible to write a novel with that feeling all the way through, at least not for me. But I have had it at points in the book. And I wanted it for the last few chapters because they're the last few chapters. And I actually have like this motivation now because I feel like I'm there. It's happening. So hello friends. The Tuesday. At the moment, I'm just taking a little break from work because I'm exporting a video. And exporting a video while doing other things is not something that my elderly computer knows how to do. I'm just gonna let that do that. Yeah, so yesterday I think I wrote about 1,500 words total, and I finished that chapter that I was writing, which was chapter 21, which means I have 2 chapters left, which is equally exciting and mortifying. I've never experienced this before where I'm like so sad to finish a book. I'm sad. I feel like I'm really having a crisis, and every time I think about the fact that there's only 2 chapters left, I continue to have more of a crisis. Really the only thing that keeps me going is my desire to write something else other than this novel. I love this novel, but I feel like I'm getting cabin fever and it's like I need to write something else before I scream. It's like an unstoppable force meets a movable object situation. You know, the unstoppable force is my desire to write another book. It's different from this one, and the immovable object is my desire to be writing this book forever because I don't want it to be over. So to just stave off that crisis, today we're gonna take the Enneagram for my main character. I had a phase where I was like super into personality typing when I was around, I think that was like when I was like 17. And I was really into MBTI, way too into. I did a ton of research on it. I got super nerdy about all the functions. I desperately wanted to be able to talk about it with people, but nobody cared because it's MBTI. So nobody cared. I still do use it as a writer because I know all the types really well, but it's not like a necessary component of my writing process, and it's not something I obsess over like I did when I was younger. I never really got into Enneagram, which is another personality test. I took it several times and the result just never felt that accurate. Would often get type 5 or 5 wing 4. It just didn't feel that accurate. The other day, I was taking the Enneagram with some friends and I took it for the first time in years and I typed as a 9 and it actually felt quite accurate, and I was like, this actually makes sense. This is probably my Enneagram type. Thought it would be interesting to take it for my main character, Sybil, because I want to distract myself from my crisis. What we're already working with here, she's an ISTP. She's a true neutral. I don't really know much about astrology, but I do know that Sybil is a Scorpio. A lot of Enneagram quizzes, I'm taking the one at crystalknows.com because that's the one that gave me the result I feel is most accurate, which is 9. Rate each statement on this page 1 to 5 based on how true you think it is for you. My relationships with others are what my life is about. 1. The opposite of that. I daydream about being in love. She's aromantic and a little romance repulsed. I have a hard time showing emotions. 5. Fear of being taken advantage of keeps me from being more trusting. This is really interesting because I do think Sybil withholds herself from being more trusting of other people for a lot of reasons, but I don't know if it's fear of being taken advantage of. I think it's maybe more of a fear of going through a loss again or being let down. So I'm gonna say somewhat agree. In a roundabout way, this is kind of accurate. I naturally emerge as a leader. As unlikable and disdainful and bitter as she is, she does have more of a leader personality in a group, I would say, because she knows how she wants things to get done. When other people are arguing, I leave the room. No, she probably stays and adds fuel to that fire. I strive for efficiency. Yeah. I have difficulty saying no. Definitely not. Her favorite thing is to say no to people. I like to stand out. No. She's like, I hate to be known. I hate to be observed. I really enjoy feeling bittersweet. Now, if I was taking this for Freya, 5 out of 5, 10 out of 5. I'll go 2. I feel like she wouldn't admit it, but maybe in like a slight way, she enjoys a little bit of sadness. I spend hours alone with my hobbies, most definitely. I get input from others before I make a decision. She would never. I can keep a conversation going with anyone about anything. She can't keep a conversation going with anyone about anything. I like a conversation where no one agrees. Yeah. I keep my thoughts to myself to prevent trouble. If the question was just, I keep my thoughts to myself, 5 out of 5. But then we add on this to prevent trouble. She does like to keep her thoughts to herself, but she loves to cause trouble. She's mischievous. I often have to redo other people's work. Yeah, that's what I mean about like her being a leader. It's not that she has like an outgoing personality, but it's like, I want things done my way. So she would probably be the person to like redo the whole group project at the last minute without asking. I get lots of satisfaction from helping others achieve their goals. No. This question is just, I cry. In the book, which spans 10 years, this bitch cries 1 time. 1 time. She cries 1 time. I am uninhibited. In a sense, I am very accepting and flexible. Antithesis of that. I always try to break the tension with a good joke. I don't think she has ever understood what a joke is. I avoid confrontation. She loves confrontation. That's so weird. She got a type 5. Like I said at the beginning, when I would take the Enneagram, well, when I was like 17, I would consistently get 5, which is why it's so interesting that she got a 5, because pretty much for every single question, I was thinking my answer is the polar opposite of that. It's probably 75% of the questions I feel that her answer is not just different from mine, but like the inverse of mine. And so for her to get the type that I would always get is really weird. I don't think I am a 5. Pretty sure I'm a 9. 5 never made sense, never fit. I don't understand why I always test as that, but anyway, so maybe she's 5. Okay. Basic desire of the Enneagram type 5 is to feel helpful and competent. I'd say that's true. They express this by passionately pursuing knowledge and working to gain new skills and abilities. Thinkers often guard themselves by withdrawing from others. calling her out, both emotionally and physically. This may make them feel safe, but can also lead to loneliness. This is completely true. Type 5 personalities tend to seek knowledge and deeper understanding, prefer spending time alone, that is fully correct, fear being useless and inadequate, correct, guard themselves and their emotions, correct, be curious about and observant in new environments. All correct. The strengths that it says for type 5 are thinking through complex problems, that is true, observing the details of their environment, true, constantly learning and picking up new skills, true, ability to remain calm in a crisis, true, and focusing completely on the task at hand. That is all quite accurate. And the weaknesses, I feel like this is what I really want to hear. Difficulty relating to the emotions of others. Absolutely. Tendency to be perceived as condescending. With Sybil, it's not that she's perceived, she's genuinely condescending. Disconnecting from their feelings. Every page of that 350-page book is her disconnecting from her feelings. Detaching or isolating themselves from other people. Holy. And then what it says for the growth opportunities for type 5, taking time to listen to others and to share, she would never. Connecting to and working through emotions, she would never. Appreciating and thanking those around them, she would never. And finally, recognizing when they are withdrawing and choosing to engage with others instead, she would never. That's all I have today on this segment of Shaylin Takes the Enneagram. Do we want this to be recurring? Probably we don't. Hello. I just wrote the entirety of chapter 22, which is the second to last chapter. And I'm feeling a way about it right now. So that was the climax of the book. The last chapter is just like following action. The way my book is structured is that in between every chapter, there's a like fable section. There's like evolving folklore in the story. We kind of get a peek into what that folklore is at the end of every chapter, and it is the main character inserting into the story. The story is very short at the beginning, so the fable sections are very short, and then as the folklore gets more complicated, we get the whole story. We just kind of get what is important based on what has happened in the past chapter. At the end of part 1, there's like a whole recap, the entire legend start to finish, and so I think that because this is after the second to last chapter, I think I'm gonna do that again and have another full recap at the whole legend. I can't decide if I want the final, like the book to end on one of these sections. That was my plan up until literally 2 days ago, but a short one, not end on like the long one. But now I think it might be more authentic for it to just end on the main character's narrative. But either way, I think this is the place to have a long fable section. So that I haven't written. I don't think I'm gonna write it tonight. I am feeling like weirdly buzzed right now. It might be the matcha. I think it's also the fact that when writing a scene turns out really well, I get kind of buzzed and I have a bit of like a writing high. It was like a very intense scene. I'm really happy with how it turned out. Probably the happiest I've been with a scene in quite a while, but I'm also having a crisis. I feel like I could finish this book tonight. It's only 7. This book probably needs 2,000 more words and then it's done. But I'm not emotionally prepared for that, because I didn't go into this writing session thinking that I was gonna finish the book. I'm gonna go, and I will see you next time, and it will probably be when I'm finishing this book, and I might be crying. Guys, I just got back from a walk, which is usually what I do before I write. I'm gonna go put on pajamas, make some matcha real quick, and then write the end of my book. I've been really emotional about it all day. I was really emotional about it last night, but Heather O'Neill just followed me on Twitter, so I'm gonna try to take that energy of one of my favorite writers, knowing that I exist, and use that to carry me through the end of this book. Hey guys, so it's 5:17 on March 7th. I just finished my book about 2 minutes ago, and I'm feeling a lot of ways right now. It feels weirdly surreal. I feel like this weird sense of peace, relief, sadness, pride, a few other things. So my end word count for the book is 88,054 words. I just wrote the entirety of the last chapter. It was a total of 1,958 words. It was honestly a great writing session. It was one of the best writing sessions I've had in a really long time. Like, I'm really happy with how the chapter turned out, to be honest. I feel great about it. I think I realized partly why I was sad to finish the book as I was writing it, and it's just that I've loved writing this book. Like, quite simply, like, as much as I love writing, and I have enjoyed writing every book I've ever written, I don't think I've ever enjoyed writing a book as much as I truly have enjoyed writing this book. The highs of writing this book far outweighed the lows. You know, there were hard parts. There was never a point where I didn't want to be working on it, where I felt like I should have been doing something else, where I doubted that this was something that I cared about. And normally that is how I feel at various points in a book. Normally I have those lows. Writing this writing session today and having those 2,000 words just flow out so nicely, it just made me realize why I was sad, and it was I'm never gonna have that again with this book. I don't get the same high from revising. Sure, I might have to draft some new scenes here or there, but it's not really the same as having that continuous forward motion through a draft to the end of the draft. It's not really the same when you just go back and write one scene, and I'm never gonna have that again with this book. And I will have it with other books, I'm sure, but I'll never have it with this one. I'm not crying right now, which I feel really great about. Obviously, I'll have that same joy with other projects. I don't think this is going to be the only book I ever write that will make me this happy. What happened with this book is I wrote it with a confidence I've never written before, and I realized this last night. I finished the chapter before, and there was this sense of finality to it. I realized, because I got really emotional after I wrote that, I think maybe why this book has meant so much to me is because it's the first time I've ever written a book knowing and fully believing that I was a good writer. It took me a really long... Sorry, there's a clicking in the background. Something clicks in my room and I don't know what it is. I think it's the radiator, but the heat's not on right now. Anyways, that does that. I literally don't know what causes it. I wrote this book for the first time, like, genuinely feeling like a good writer, and there's a lot that I want to talk about. I'm gonna make a sit-down video talking about this book, the writing process of this book, that will go up before this vlog is my plan. But this is one of the things I want to talk about in that video, is that writing this book with confidence made it so much more enjoyable. And for every other book except this one, and I'm not counting my short story collection. I count my short story collection as a book that I've written. There was no clear end anyways, it's just completely different. But every other novel I've ever written, I would always think about, like, what people would think about the book when they read it, like hypothetical reactions, like worrying about, like, if people would like this character and what they would think of this plot point. A lot of the time that speculation became negative. It made it hard to write because I would lose sense of what my own vision for the story was, what I wanted the story to be. There were all of these hypothetical opinions from hypothetical people in my head as I was writing. This book, that never happened, and this wasn't a conscious thing. At no point did I decide, hey, you know what, like, you know what you want from this, you don't have to think about hypothetical people. It wasn't conscious, it just didn't happen, and I didn't even notice that that hadn't happened until, like, literally, like, maybe a week ago. When they say you should write for yourself, I had, again, aside from my short story collection, I had never actually done that until this book. I had never actually just written for myself. I had always written with other people in mind, thinking about what other people would want to happen in the story, you know? How should I end the book? Well, how will readers want it to end? I had this confidence in what my vision for it was, and I allowed myself to just be fully engrossed in that. Sometimes that was just intuitive, and sometimes it was clear-cut. But, like, I really did just write this for me. And I think that in a sense that was learning to be more selfish as a writer. I guess I've realized, like, maybe art should be selfish. And I really just created this book for myself. I am getting emotional right now. I feel more proud of this book than anything I've ever made in my life. I am really excited to do more with this book, you know? Like, obviously, the road's not over. And I'm really glad that I've been editing as I wrote, because I would feel awful right now if I had not revised any of this, and now I had the task of revising the whole thing start to finish. You know, I've never been sad to finish a book. Like, every other book I've ever finished, I've felt just really excited. I've never had this feeling of bittersweetness, but now that I'm actually done the book, it's a sense of calmness that I think all of that, like, sadness that I was feeling, some of it's actually gone now that I'm actually done. You know, I can map my life based on what book I was writing at the time. And so I think it's really, really strange to know that the honey vinegar chapter of my life, which has probably been, in terms of things that were happening in my life outside of the book, the best chapter of my life ever. The honey vinegar chapter of my life is over as of March 7th. 2020 is really surreal and strange. I let myself just wholeheartedly love this project and not get caught up in feeling like I had to hate some aspect of it. You know, there had always been this feeling like putting this pressure on myself to dislike my own work. Got over this idea, and it was like, I can just love this wholeheartedly, start to finish, page 1 all the way until page 341 for 18 months. Never have a doubt about that. Never have a second thought about that. I hope I can carry that on through every project I write from here on out. The next vlog is probably going to be me starting my next project because I'm gonna move on immediately. As much as I love this book, I do need a break. I need to let it rest for a couple months before I do some edits on it, and I need to bring back some energy for this book specifically before I start editing it. But I do have ideas, so I'm gonna do that probably in a couple months. I need to give myself something new to refuel me, so I'm gonna move on to my next book basically immediately because I've been really excited to start it. Your girl needs a rebound. She needs to move on. That's all I have to say for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for being with me the whole time I was writing this book. It means a lot for me to be able to share my writing process. The fact that people find that interesting baffles me. If you have any questions, you can always send me an ask on Tumblr, and I'll see you in another video.